Hey everybody, how's it going? So I'm fairly certain that my phone is going to blow up with text messages calling me an idiot for even bothering to do this, and I will likely regret doing this video. But the reason I'm doing it is because if this is something to the point of having 8 upvotes on a video that's less than an hour old, then I imagine that it is a thought that other people are going to be having as well, so I figured that I would address it here. So this comment says, don't forget all the free money, plus all that, quote, not-for-profit money he's using to go on road trips and vacations with Erica, and with the, quote, not-for-profit, it's the implication that I'm that I'm laundering money from a nonprofit in order to personally benefit me. And someone saying, I am sick of Erica, that's my girlfriend and her first world problems. No more trash diving videos after donations. So I wanted to dig into this a little bit because this is a standard accusation, and I understand where it comes from. It comes from the fact that you have nonprofits like the homeless one that I went over in New York City, where our former governor, Andrew Cuomo, had a nonprofit where the director was making $500,000 a year. $500,000 a year in salary, and the nonprofit provided homeless shelters that looked and operated kind of like a prison, and these homeless shelters were charging the city $3,500 to $4,000 per month per person there. It just seems like a scam, and so I understand where people's cynicism is coming from. Now, something I've done in the past year is I've started 2 right to repair nonprofits. The first is Repair Preservation Group. It focuses on things like right to repair education, getting normal, average, everyday people a little bit more involved and understanding of what right to repair is, so funding small advocacy groups. And the second thing it does is stuff like these posts on the wiki. So here you have troubleshooting guides. It's similar to what you see in my videos, except it's much more direct, and I'm finding experts to contribute to it and then offering them money for expert level contributions so that it's easier to get people involved in the repairs that I go over on my YouTube channel for a wider spectrum of devices, and also finding people that are going to find issues that I don't know about. And the other thing that I do with the other nonprofit, right, Repair Preservation Group Action Fund, is we hire lobbyists. So I go over this on fighttorepair.org. If you go to fighttorepair.org and scroll down, I will make these posts. Admittedly, it's not the prettiest website, but I go over lobbyists that we hire in the states that we are moving in. Now, I understand and can respect if somebody says, listen, I don't understand why you're focusing on this device, or I disagree with this thing in the wiki, or I don't know why you're focusing on this state versus that state, or I don't know why you hired this lobbyist instead of that lobbyist. We can always have a conversation there. But the thing that kind of drives me nuts is when somebody says, really with no evidence at all, you're misappropriating these funds for your own gain. And the reason is because of the level that we've gone to do more than the bare minimum when it comes to reporting. So if you have a nonprofit, you're required to file something called a Form 990. A Form 990 says what you spent the money on to some extent. It goes over the largest expenditures that you had and also the people or directors that are paid if it goes over a certain amount of money. So it's kind of transparent. It's not fully transparent, but it gives a decent level of transparency so you can get an idea as to whether or not a nonprofit is a nonprofit you want to donate to or whether it's a scam. I went a little bit further with it because I understand that there's that level of skepticism when it comes to nonprofits. So what I did is I read through about 6 months of bank statements in this 40-minute video, Beyond the 990, a transparent look into my nonprofit and how money is spent. So what I did is I went over every single line item in the bank statements, and I explained why they were there, what they represented, what the money was spent for. I also went over the checks that we wrote. I would block out account numbers, and for some donors that donated money that wanted to remain anonymous, sometimes I would censor their names in the bank statements over here. But I went over every single check that was written, every single wire transfer made, every single expenditure, even if it was only for a few dollars, so that you understood where the money was going. And when you go over this, one of the things that you notice is that there is no salary for me. So it's not like I'm not taking $200K a year. I'm not taking $50K a year. I'm not taking $500 a year. I am taking zero, because I understand the level of stigma that is associated with modern nonprofits, and I understand the fact that we are at a point in our society where people are so cynical that a lot of average, ordinary people assume that nonprofits and charities are a scam more often than not. That's kind of like the default that a lot of people go to. So I understand that, and one of the other things that I understand is that there is this perverse incentive structure. If you're getting paid to solve a problem, to ensure that you never actually solve it, to kind of make it look like you're fighting, but since you're getting paid, so long as the problem exists, you kind of become invested in the problem never going away. So it's important to me to avoid that altogether. And one of the things that I try to do for that is I don't pay myself a salary. It's not like I give myself 50K, 80K, 20K. No, the salary is zero. Now, the implication here is that I'm going on vacations with it. There is one trip that we made, and I saw it to be a lobbying trip, where we paid for approximately I think it was 2 or 3 evenings of hotels. I'd have to rewatch my own video because I don't remember. We paid for about 2 or 3 evenings of a crappy hotel so that we can make this road trip. This road trip was visiting every single repair shop in the state of Massachusetts, doing a short interview with them that I could use, and I can take clips out of it to send to their specific legislators so they understand that their constituents support it, but also to try to get more turnout. Something that I've said on this channel is that when there is a hearing, like there was one in Maine, I remember Joel Stetka saying that we only had one person show up from our state, but we had 14 lobbyists against it. One of the things that I wanted to do is get rid of this thing where only one person shows up from the state. And most people who are in the repair business or that get into this kind of job, they're techies, and let's face it, a lot of them are kind of on the spectrum or Asperger's or just kind of shy people. So I wanted to try and meet them in person, talk to them because a lot of them knew who I was and know me from YouTube, get them out of their shell, and encourage them to actually show up to a lobbying day, that we're all going to be there, we're going to organize it together, and let's do this. And we wound up actually getting a lot of people to show up as a result of this. A lot of people showed up to the Zoom. Fortunately, it was over Zoom because of Massachusetts and COVID, but a lot of people showed up. A lot of people spoke to their legislators. It was a great meeting, and we actually had somebody that wound up not only interviewing their senator, but he actually, and this is his words, not mine, this is a really cool dude from Salem Texperts, he wound up emailing his senator while he was taking a shit on the toilet, and she actually responded to him. And she co-sponsored the legislation a few days after we visited, and she wound up coming for an interview with him, and it was absolutely great. So I did spend a few $100s on hotels while I was traveling through the state of Massachusetts, and I believe at one point I spent $1.75 or so on parking because I could not find free parking. Although usually I did everything I could to find free parking, but that is literally impossible in Cambridge. And I thought if I am actually going to do travel that has nothing to do with vacation, that has nothing to do with my personal pleasure, that is about getting and organizing repair shops, I did not feel like paying for the hotels out of pocket, so I spent a few $100 on the hotels from this. I did go on a vacation once this trip was done to clear my head because I've been losing my mind over the past 7 years of being a workaholic, and I went to New Hampshire for vacation. However, as you can see from this Beyond the 990, I did not pay for any of those hotels, any of that trip from the nonprofit. That was all paid for personally. When I make a trip to Florida, I pay for that myself, personally, not nonprofit. When I went to New Hampshire and I visited Keene and Concord and Nashua, that was paid for personally because that was my vacation. That wasn't a nonprofit expenditure. And I think the thing that drives me nuts is that I've pretty much made all this information available so that you could see. And I don't think you're going to find a lot of nonprofits at this point that are willing to say, here are our bank statements, and here is a detailed list of why we did everything we did for each line item. Now, again, if you disagree with something, I understand that and I respect that. I have never run a nonprofit. I have never been a lobbyist before. This is not what I do. I completely understand and respect that. If you disagree with why'd you hire this firm, why are you focusing on this state, why are you like all that type of stuff, that's legitimate criticism. But when somebody says something like that, that's factually incorrect, and you could tell that there's like a popularity to that raging hate boner, because again, this video is less than an hour old and it literally gets 8 upvotes immediately, and I'll see this posted around the web more and more as the work that we're doing makes more and more progress. I will be doing updates to this Beyond the 990 video because this video at this point is 2 months old, and we will be very soon releasing the 990s. But again, the 990 is not going to give you more information than what you get out of the actual business bank statement, which is literally public information. On to the next thing, which honestly is really dumb for me to even bother responding to. My girlfriend used to do these trash diving videos where she would go and go through dumpsters, take the food, and then take it to something called a community fridge. So a lot of the more upscale delis and grocery stores in this area will throw away food that doesn't expire for a week. And what she would do is she would actually go through the dumpsters, open up the bags, find stuff that was fully sealed, and then she would take it to the community fridges, and she would stock the community fridge so that people would have food, because a lot of people were going broke over the past year and a half because our fuckface governor decided that he could decide who is and who is not essential. That's a rant for another video altogether. So she was actually going through dumpsters on a regular basis, and she would also record the work. There were a couple of problems with this. The first problem is that while she would be filling the fridges, people would come by and pelt her with tomatoes. So while she was doing charity for people in the neighborhood would throw rotten tomatoes at her. The second problem that she had is that from time to time, adults would wind up yelling or screaming at her as she was doing this work. And the third problem that occurred is while she was going through these dumpsters, often at night, there would be people that would attempt to rape her on the street, which is really, like, she wasn't really going into this publicly, but it is one of the reasons that she decided full stop to stop doing videos, live streaming her going through dumpsters at 10 o'clock at night or midnight or 1 in the morning. You usually have to do these after the store has thrown everything away and closed. So you usually have to do this stuff at like 10 o'clock at night or 1 in the morning after that place that may close at midnight closes. And if you're a 5'2" Asian female walking around a neighborhood at 1 in the morning, you're probably going through a dumpster. You're probably going to meet some unsavory people. And that unfortunately did happen. There was one time that she was about 2 blocks away from the store. She calls me. She tells me about a rape attempt. I run over there with my bike. I tell her, hop on the back. I ask, which way did he go? She points. She's like, what are you doing? What are we doing? I'm like, tell me when you see him. Now, I wasn't ever able to find him. He probably made his way into a subway or something like that and was able to leave beforehand, which is a good thing, because my intention at the moment that she pointed out who did it was to kill him on the street. Again, it's probably the best for both of us that I wound up not finding who did it, but needless to say, it was at that point in time that we made a joint decision that dumpster diving at 11 or 1 o'clock at night by yourself probably wasn't the best thing to do. There was a video on my channel, and I can't find it. I forget where it was, where we on occasion would go through it together, but due to the work schedule, it just wasn't something that I was able to make work, so she did indeed stop doing it. It is a shame when you actually want to do good for the community, you want to take, because I think she got out of my videos that I enjoy taking things that were thrown away and making them work again. That's what I like doing. I like taking items that otherwise would have been in the trash, making it work, and just being able to make money on top and make people happy as a cherry on top. It really is something I enjoy. And she started to enjoy that as well, which is, this food hasn't expired yet. It's sealed. It's going to be thrown away. Let me make that available to other people to make them happy. And she used to love filling up these community fridges. But again, people trying to rape you while you're climbing through a dumpster, people pelting you with tomatoes, people screaming at you. Eventually, she just kind of stopped doing it. And I honestly don't blame her, because I wouldn't want to deal with all that shit either. But again, at the end of the day, if you believe that I am embezzling from this nonprofit, that I am taking money that I shouldn't, you can go through the bank statements. But at the end of the day, I understand that the type of person that is going to make this type of comment is somebody that doesn't actually care. I could make the bank statements public. They don't give a shit, because at the end of the day, it's not about facts. It's about saying something that makes them feel good, that reinforces the pre-existing disdain that they already had for me, regardless of whether it is actually true. But again, if you want to know how we are actually spending the money that we managed to raise, check out this video. I also plan to do a follow-up video to this video. We are going to go through not just what happened for October, we'll go through November, December, and the beginning of January as well. It's fairly dry and it's fairly boring stuff. It's literally just me reading through bank statements, but it goes over every single way within which this nonprofit has spent money, because I do understand that at this point in time, there is a very, very, very high level of cynicism. And I don't blame people for having that level of cynicism, but I do blame people for making statements that are easily disprovable by publicly available bank statements. That's it for today. And yeah, I'm probably an idiot for posting this video and responding to pretty much every single comment. But this is not a comment that's shown up once. This is a comment that I get in my own comment section a few dozen times a day. I recognize that this video on a channel with 1.69 million subscribers only got 23,000 views. So a lot of people may not actually realize that this video exists. So I'm making this video to reinforce the fact that this video exists if anybody is actually curious and wants to look into it. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I will see you all in the next video. Bye now.